Hi there, we're the Hugonauts, bringing you the best sci-fi novels of all time. And today, we're doing the top 10 best tech ideas that have ever been done. So excited about this. Cody, what's number 10?
Number 10, we're going to start with Ice 9 from Vonnegut's novel Cat's Cradle, which is in the novel essentially a chemical compound, Ice 9, that turns anything it touches, any water it touches, moisture, etc., into a very aggressive version of ice.
Unmeltable.
Completely unmeltable. And it's a metaphor for nuclear war and nuclear proliferation, and the idea that we could have weapons so powerful in the hands of the few, and how terrifying that is. And it really hits home when you think about all the planet's water and moisture freezing just because some one person decided to touch this compound to something.
Yeah, that scene where it's like starting to proliferate. Yeah, I'll never forget it. Crazy scene. Terrible scene. Anyway, number 9, I'm going to go with the Ansible from Ursula K. Le Guin's Hainish cycle. So think The Dispossessed or Left Hand of Darkness. Later, this same exact technology was taken by Orson Scott Card for use in the Ender's Game universe. He also calls it the Ansible. What it does is it allows instantaneous communication between any two places in the galaxy. These days, I think we would say it was using quantum entanglement, which may or may not actually work. But anyway, the point is it's a really interesting idea, and particularly when Ursula K. Le Guin is using it in her books. In all of those Hainish cycle books, it's about sort of cultural exchange, because you can't possibly move like large objects. You can't have trade between worlds. It's just too expensive. But you can exchange ideas. And watching how just ideas can change societies and change people is extremely powerful. And I think probably realistic to how interstellar travel will be for us. It will make no sense to move physical objects between stars, but maybe even if we have to move them at the speed of light, we can move ideas. So yeah, it's just really a powerful idea that I think says a lot about what our future might be like.
Yeah. Number 8 is Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke, and that is the ship Rama, the cylinder that's flying through the future human solar system, and we explore the ship. We won't spoil it for you, but essentially it's a great idea because it's the first kind of realistic arc ship that I've seen. We get arc ship concepts a lot in human cryosleep, etc. How do we travel?
Children of Time recently, very famously.
Yes, exactly. And Rama's feels realistic because, well, I can't tell you that, but
you should read it.
You should definitely read it. So number 8, Rendezvous with Rama, the ship.
Yeah, how do you make the systems not break down over all that time? Arthur C. Clarke thought about it. Anyway, okay. Number 7, I'm going to go with the artificial wombs in Barrayar and just in general in all the Vorkosigan books by Lois McMaster Bujold. These are episodic books that you can just drop into mostly any of the books in the series. They're all so well written, such amazing characters, incredibly fun. And in general, the sort of like long run arc of these stories is about this family who's part of the ruling elite of this planet Barrayar, trying to change kind of their like backward, patriarchal, extremely militaristic society into being sort of like a more forward looking, technologically advanced, rich and equal world. And the artificial wombs are just sort of an understated, very cool part of that. And it does a lot to like sort of help break gender dynamics. And I think that's something probably that will happen in our future and will do a lot to help, make it so people can live their lives any way they want. Single father, you can have a kid. Mom doesn't have to stop going to work for a while to have a kid, like all that kind of stuff, and just explored in a really good way. I'll also call out the first time I ever saw this was actually in Aldous Huxley, and he uses it for some very sinister stuff in Brave New World. We have that episode coming out next week, so come back. But anyway, particularly in the Vorkosigan series, I think such a well-done concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming in at number 6, we have the Ancillaries in Ancillary Justice. Ancillary Justice is a novel, and then a trilogy, the Ancillary Trilogy, about ships who are artificial intelligences who control human bodies. So it's one mind controlling many, many human bodies, and it explores the ideas of what personality would develop out of a being who lived like that. And it's a fascinating exploration of that and a cool idea, again, about something that seems plausible that might happen in the future. And fantastic novel nonetheless.
Yeah, that novel and that idea totally blew my mind. Such a cool exploration of that. And we're not spoiling anything. That's very clear in the beginning of the book, but just the whole book sort of like delves much further into how that goes. Okay, number 5. I'm going to go with Ender's Game, but probably a piece of tech you're not expecting from Ender's Game, the fantasy game that Ender plays. So while he's in battle school, there's this fantasy game he's playing on a tablet computer. And it's just an image that's stuck with me my whole life. I probably read Ender's Game for the first time 20 years ago. And when I reread it recently, I realized that was one of the things that I'd actually stuck with me the longest. And I think the reason that is because in the game world, he can do anything he wants. There's no like you can only pick up certain objects or whatever. He can truly do anything he wants. And the game is being created specifically for him. And so in Ender's Game, that no one really understands like what the computer's trying to achieve, and it's kind of part of the twist at the end that I won't spoil. But I think that idea of a responsive game that's extremely immersive is very powerful. And the question they're raising about like how could you use that to shape someone's thoughts and like who's trying to shape his thoughts with this are really, really worth thinking about, and something I think we'll have to encounter in the near future. So yeah, just such an immersive, crazy game.
Yeah, and the idea that it can be custom tailored to him specifically, right? That's a very cool idea. Honorable mention also would be spoiling if I said a lot more about it, but the VR game and 3-body problem, which serves a similar function.
Yes, very much in the same vein. Yeah.
Okay, number 4. Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine is about a woman from an outer rim planet who's going to the center of the political galaxy and has to fight through the bureaucracy and the politics. And the piece of tech that's fascinating in that novel is the Imago machines, which are specific to her space colony. They're machines that are implanted in the brains of diplomats that are that have an old identity on file, basically, of the previous diplomat or the previous scientist who's in your field. It's not only diplomats. And it creates this really interesting way of thinking about identity through bioenhancements when you have someone else's personality embedded in your brain and they're morphing, the personalities are morphing together into one thing over time. And it seems like something that could happen with bioenhancements and how might be part of humanity's evolution in our identities.
Yeah, extremely, extremely cool idea. Okay, number 3, we're going to go with travel at effectively the speed of light, which I think is most well explored in a way that really makes it hit home in The Forever War. So The Forever War is a book by Joe Haldeman, definitely one of the best sci-fi novels of all time. If you have not read it, you must. And it's about humanity experiencing first contact and then going to war with this alien race. And it all happens far off. They don't know where Earth is, and we don't know where their home planet is. So they're fighting over these jump points. But to get to the jump points, you have to accelerate to effectively 999% the speed of light. And that means that the time dilation gets really crazy. So he's on the soldier's on a 2-year campaign, but over the course of the war, because he's spending so much of that 2 years at extremely high speeds, hundreds of years are passing on Earth. And the way that impacts his personal relationships and his ability to understand his own culture, it just really brings home in a very visceral way that traveling interstellar distances is always a one-way trip. You can never go home. And this book just really brings that home in a really, really incredible way.
Yes, fiction at its finest, analogizing high concepts for us so we can understand them and instinctually feel them. Number 2 is another great example of that, which is Anxiety is the Dizziness of Freedom by Ted Chiang, which is a novella. It's about tablets that are invented that split multiple universes from the moment that they're turned on, and parallel timelines of the character who's turning on the tablet, essentially. And so the tablet lasts so long as its battery lasts and its information lasts, and what you can do is you can speak between the one parallel universe and the other with yourself or whoever has the tablet on the other end. So you can see what kind of impact your choices had, and the version of yourself that's doing better or worse than you are, and all the implications therein. And this is a really interesting way of exploring the idea in a shorter format in the novella, because you get to focus just on what happens to the world when these tablets are invented. It's an incredible story, and it's a really character-first human way of looking at this technology and why.
Yeah, such a fun, great exploration of the multiverse. I totally agree. And that story is in his collection, Exhalation. He has 2 big books out, collected short stories. Exhalation is my personal favorite of the 2, but they're both so great. Anyway, so if you're looking to get the book, get Exhalation by Ted Chiang, and that story is in it.
Yes, thank you for that. And what about number 1?
Number 1. Okay, number 1, we're going to go with... I guess we'll call it the metaverse from Snow Crash, because that's the one that really, I think, brought it home first for me. But this is an idea that was first explored in...
Neuromancer, William Gibson.
Yeah, and he doesn't even have a name there, really. I guess we'll call it cyberspace. And then later, after Snow Crash, you see it in The Matrix, which... really explored it in an interesting way. The Oasis and Ready Player One. But broadly speaking, let's call this like extremely immersive virtual reality. And it's in all of those are incredible pieces of fiction. Ready Player One is maybe like less highbrow and kind of just fun, but you should absolutely read Snow Crash, Neuromancer. And if you have not seen The Matrix, like go do that right now. But in any case, just this idea that I think as time goes on, we spend more and more of our lives sort of like inside screens, and those screens will keep getting better and better. Like these ideas seem like certain to be true. And just these are all different ways of exploring them in various shades of dystopia versus utopia. And I'll never forget the crazy sword fight scenes from Snow Crash or in The Matrix, when he can learn things instantly because of this VR machine. Just in general, this idea of fully immersive virtual reality, I think, is the tech idea in sci-fi that seems most imminent in extremely changing our world and lives.
Exactly, and it also has it also proves that science fiction and fiction in general have the power to determine how the world develops. Planting those ideas, like, is this possible in the heads of people who actually can make them happen, has been one of the most fun ways to see science fiction play out and actually affect our world in the reverse way. And
also hopefully help us with these huge transformative technological ideas, because we've explored them in fiction before. Hopefully we can avoid doing them in the terrible ways. We'll see.
Exactly.
If that's the hope.
An alternate history to warn us about the pitfalls of things. All right. Well, those are the top 10 tech ideas in science fiction as we think them. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Come join us on the Discord.
Good seeing you, everybody. Keep reading.